Hey there, Sonia here. Welcome back to another episode of my Help I'm Artist podcast. The opening scene of this podcast starts at a wedding I attended of an artist friend of mine. In the Netherlands, when couples get married, the ceremony needs to be officiated by the government. In this instance, as the wedding official introduced the couple, he stated their professions. Artist, he said, as he gestured to my friend. A roar of laughter erupted in the crowd, and I remember feeling quite taken aback. Why the laughter? Don't people understand that being an artist is serious business? One that deserves recognition and is to be valued. I don't think it fazed my friend. He had found the love of his life and is still very much a successful artist. Last summer I taught at a summer school in Germany. I spent a week teaching and mentoring creatives, and the question most frequently asked was, how do I know that I'm an artist? Time and time again, this is the number one question creatives ask me. Am I an artist? How do I know that I'm an artist? Maybe you've even asked this question yourself. It is not as if we come out of the mother's womb with the label artist. Artists' hearts need to be nurtured, to grow and to develop. We need to be supported, and we need the support of others. Maybe you and your art received affirmation from a kindergarten teacher or from a Sunday school teacher. You remember her smile, the pat on your head, and the gold star she pasted on your colorful drawing of mom, dad, and the household pet? Or maybe your childhood drawings got promoted and were hung on the family fridge. But somewhere that support stops. Brothers and sisters tease us about the skinny figures we draw, or the funny houses that we paint. Or we get laughed at because of the false notes we produce as we are practicing the violin. Somewhere along the line, our artist's heart decides that it's less painful to stop creating than to face another glare or a stab of rejection or a laughter from our brothers or sisters. We bolt up our hearts, we pace up the sign, off limits, and we get on with life, leaving our artist's heart locked up and lulled to sleep. In order for my artist's heart to survive, I need acknowledgement. I need people to tell me that they love my paintings, that they enjoy my music, and that my dancing was amazing. We need to be affirmed for our achievements and applauded for our breakthroughs. Some of you never had this encouragement, and so your artist's heart has never been acknowledged. So you may not even know that you're an artist. The inner voice of our creativity is persistent, and it'll whisper to us, maybe as we fall asleep at night, or in the silence of a walk in a forest, or the contemplation we do on a family vacation, or when we're surrounded by beauty. Our inner creative voice starts to whisper. It'll nudge us and poke us, and we'll try our best to ignore it. I know I did, stuffing it down with my busy schedule and arguing it has no right to exist. I recently read a great book by Steven Pressfield, The War of Art. It's an easy read, and I really recommend it. He describes so vividly in his book that most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. Maybe you felt that resistance. I felt that resistance, that there's a gap between the life that you're living and the life that you would love to live. A chasm between feeling creative and actually living a creative life. Stephen mentioned in his book that it's especially true when we pursue any creative calling, whether we want to paint or draw or play music, do something in film or art or any other creative profession. There is a resistance between living it and not living it. This got me thinking, how do we fight this resistance? How do we conquer this battle between the life we live and the life we want to live? And how do we give our creativity the space it deserves. I've experienced firsthand that coming alive as a creative can be extremely confronting, vulnerable, fearful, and sometimes even painful. And in order to cover this up and deal with this resistance, with the fear, with the pain, with the confronting, we become very creative in inventing excuses. The excuse I hear most of the time from creators that can't pursue their dreams or don't have time to pursue their creative careers is time. I just don't have time to create. I don't have time to study. I don't have time to make my art. As I grow older, time just seems to be more and more valuable and seems to be going faster and faster. I once worked as a researcher for a television series. In this series, I interviewed couples where one of the couples was fighting an incurable disease. When I asked them what they would do differently, almost all of them wished that they had more time and that they had used their time more wisely. I find that time is a valuable commodity and that I'm in charge of how I use it and that I'm in charge of how I plan things. I've decided that I need to own it. I need to own my time and that my time does not own me. I have to fight for my time, especially that I have to fight for time to nurture my artist's heart. Only I can decide what I do with my time. And sometimes people get frustrated when I tell creatives, you are in charge of your time, you are in charge of your schedule. And then they say that I don't understand, that they have kids, that they have busy schedules, and that art won't put food on the table. I get it. But there's a difference between being a victim of time or taking charge of your time. We need to use our time deliberately. And maybe for a season you need to choose to nurture your family, or to look after an elderly parent, or to follow a certain studies or follow a vocation. But then you've chosen that time. And that we don't use that as an excuse not to follow our creative dreams or our passions. Because otherwise the very thing that is keeping me from being creative will create bitterness and resentment in my heart. Determine that this is what I want to do with my time, whether it is family or a vocation, or that it's time to nurture my artist heart. I don't know about you, but as a creative, I was allergic to routine. I would get the heebie-jeebies when my husband would say, honey, let's make a schedule of what we're going to be eating this week, or how we're going to plan the weekly chores. It would just send me running. I wanted life to surprise me. I loved living spontaneously, and I didn't want to plan everything out. But of course, this costs so much more energy. And it seemed that time was just running through my fingers, and before I knew it, there we were at another New Year's Eve party, wondering where did the time go? Where did the years go? And I had a good look at my time, and I thought I'd give routine a try. I created a basic routine in my life, and to my surprise, it worked. Instead of routine stifling me, or choking me, or keeping me from doing what I wanted to do, actually routine gave me the energy and the freedom to do the things that I really wanted to do. Research shows that it takes up to 66 days to create a new habit. It doesn't come cheap. Great example of this is of parents struggling to teach their kids to brush their teeth. It takes a lot of bribing and begging before they can do it on their own. But as an adult, we all know we don't have to think about it anymore. We get up in the morning and brush our teeth. Go to bed at night, brush our teeth. It's become a good habit. It doesn't cost us any energy. It's something that we've made our own. I get up at the same time every morning, and I know what I'm going to eat for breakfast. I've made it a routine. I don't have to think about it. My body is used to it. I don't even need an alarm. My body just wakes up. Costs me no extra energy, and there's time and space and energy for other things. That's true in my creative heart. Going to nurture my art, it'll take time. It's true, my creative heart needs to be nurtured, and this will take time. Time that only I can give my heart. And creating good habits and routines will help me get there. What can you do to start to facilitate your creative dream? Maybe it's getting up early in the morning, planning 1 hour a week, or digging out your paints, or saving for a potter's wheel, or taking an art class. It's maybe getting a babysitter once a month so you can draw or write or sing. It will cost you. There's this great quote that's so true, and it says the price for the new creative life will be the old one. So that's what it'll cost. You'll have to let go of the past. You'll have to change things in your life in order to facilitate this new creative life. I admit it's easier holding on to the familiar, even if the familiar is good, that it will stop you from going for the better. Because stepping out is scary. Moving out onto the limb and moving into the unknown just freaks you out. I've met so many creatives that want to do so many things, and they find it hard to choose and to focus. This is part of our creative nature. We see possibilities everywhere, and we love so many things, and we suffer from a serious case of FOMOitis, the fear of missing out. We feel if we choose one thing, that we won't be able to do the other. But I love this analogy. Imagine you have 5 balls that you can kick one time. That ball will only go as far as that one kick. But if you had one ball, one thing, one ball that you could kick 5 times, it'll go so much further. So make a choice. Choose a one thing. I know it's hard. I know it's scary, because you want to keep everything in control and have all those choices. Your goal needs to be clear. What are you going to spend your time and your energy on? And if this is nurturing your artist heart, go for it. You can't do everything. That's something we need to accept. In order to grow, we need to make choices. What is the narrative in your head? What have you been telling yourself? What are the thoughts that are keeping you from growing creatively? Is it that you're not smart enough, bold enough, talented enough, educated enough, not pretty enough, not young enough, not old enough? What not enough have you been telling yourself? This narrative will keep your creative heart closed. There were moments in my creative adventure that I felt that I was not good enough. I was facing too many technical problems in my work. I couldn't draw the way I wanted. I couldn't draw what I had seen in my head and my imagination and the designs that I wanted to make. I couldn't get the colors right, and I started to compare myself with others. I just got so frustrated, and my insecurities all raised their ugly heads. With the result, I threw away my brushes, and for a season I did not create. And of course I was miserable and unhappy. Maybe you've vowed not to be creative. Maybe others have thought of you as not arty enough. Maybe they say, but you're just a mom. How can you be an artist? The opinions of people will start to overshadow our own thoughts about ourselves. It takes courage to stand against this and against the expectations of people to follow your own dreams. A while back I was a speaker at a conference. I had the great opportunity to share my artist story and the importance of art in healing the world. And as I was speaking, I caught a glimpse of a young woman sitting in the audience, and she was nodding and acknowledging and really absorbing everything what I was saying. At the end of the session, she rushed over to see me, and she thanked me for validating the arts and that something had stirred in her heart. She went on to tell me her story. Her parents had urged her to attend law school and to pursue a vocation as a lawyer. Although she loved her job and helping many people, deep down she knew that she was an artist, and this had left a huge hole in her artist heart. During my talk, she was so inspired, and she was so affirmed that she should give her artist heart more attention. Towards the end of our conversation, her husband joined us, and as he smilingly put his arm around her, said, "Did you know my wife is also an artist?" Her battle was half won. She had a support team around her that believed in what she did. She was well on her way to creative freedom. Now she needed to understand and to utter these words, "I am an artist." Maybe you've always longed to be a creative, but you've never had the opportunity or the time to nurture your creativity. Maybe you grew up in a home where art had no place, or you attended a school with no art program. Or maybe you live in a country where there's no art that is valued or encouraged. Or maybe you used to be creative, but the challenges in your life have choked your creativity. Or maybe you've just spent so much time looking after others with so little time for yourself. Many parents discourage their children from becoming artists or consider a career as an artist. Instead, they are encouraged to become teachers or lawyers or choose other sensible careers. Often too intimidated to become artists themselves, they neglect to recognize that they are artistic and that they have artistic dreams. Instead, they then become a shadow artist. As shadow artists are found shadowing other established artists. Artists love artists, so instead of following your own art dream, you start living in the shadow of another artist. They are often oblivious of their own identity, unable to recognize that they themselves possess the same creativity than the artists that they so admire. Shadow artists choose shadow careers. Writers become lawyers, painters become teachers, dancers become therapists, and they hide in the shadows, afraid to set out and expose their dream. It takes courage to say, "I am an artist." And I've seen many shadow artists, and they are their worst critics, judging themselves for not pursuing their art dreams, or even judging others when others pursue their art dreams. They want to write and paint and draw, but they are afraid of taking themselves seriously. I think it takes courage, not talent, that makes one person an artist and the other a shadow artist. It takes courage to come out of the shadows. It takes courage to expose your dreams and to take yourself seriously. I want to encourage you, whatever your situation is, it's never too late. You're not too old, you're not too young, you're not too broke, you're not too broken. Embracing your creativity, or maybe even re-embracing your creativity, will give you the strength and the healing to emerge. Emerge out of your shadow. Emerge out of being a shadow artist and take yourself seriously and live your dream. I see it's just like a little seed. Once it's planted and the seed is watered, it will grow. It just can't help itself. It's a seed, and that is nature. It can squeeze between the tiniest cracks in a paving, or in a rock, or between stones. I love the story of Piet Mondrian. He's a Dutch painter. You may know him from his famous paintings with the red, yellow and blue squares. Mondrian grew up in Amersfoort, a Dutch city in the middle of the Netherlands, not far from the house where I live. His father was a school teacher who strongly encouraged his son to pursue the same profession. Although Mondrian completed his teaching studies, he knew one thing. He wanted to be an artist and set out to follow his dreams and his passions. He left Amersfoort to study art in Amsterdam. And there are great stories of him tying his easel and his paints to his bike and cycling around Amsterdam, the canals and the rivers, to study and to draw. He decided to come out of his shadows and take action. Of course, we can't all head off to art school, but we can decide and take little steps forward. Maybe you feel artistic, but artist, that's a far reach, or you feel it's too abstract, or you feel inadequate. Or maybe it's not the right question. Am I an artist? Maybe the better question is, will other people believe that I'm an artist? Will they see me as an artist? What makes me an artist and what does not make me an artist? If I don't get the affirmation, or I'm not selling my work, or I don't feel inspired and I'm having a rough day, am I then still an artist? Or then all of a sudden I'm not an artist? I think the distance between being an artist and not being the artist is about 30 centimeters, 12 inches for my American friends. It is the distance between my head and my heart. The proverb in the Bible just hits the nail on the head. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Decide you are an artist, and that you will do whatever it takes to nurture your artist's heart. The resistance that I mentioned earlier, that I talked about, that is the gap between the life that you are living and the life that you want to live. That resistance hates decisions. With just one brushstroke, you can turn this all around. With one note of music, you can change everything. There will be a before and there will be an after. The before, the resistance, the no time, the excuses, and then deciding, setting out, taking out your paints, drawing every day, working on your music, setting out to take a class. That'll be the after. It is an act of will. We can make up our minds and we can do it and come out of the shadows and become artists. Decide these 3 things. Decide that art matters. Decide that you will make the time to be creative and commit to doing the work. And decide what you create matters for yourself and as a gift to others. Only one voice matters, and that is your own, coming from deep down in your soul. And I see it as the voice of our Creator whispering over you when you were made in His image. Your creativity is His breath. It's your breath. It's the breath of life, the fuel that'll move you forward. Your creative gift cannot be sold, traded, or given to anybody else. Only you have your voice, your song, your sound, your color, your little bit of God. The dictionary describes an artist as someone who creates things with skill and imagination. But this starts with a decision. Develop your gifting, nurture your talents, and take every opportunity to mature in your art. Embrace this art journey of self-discovery as you will grow from being artistic to becoming an artist. We are all different. We are all in different parts in this creative journey, at different phases and at different stages. Decide what you need in order to start or continue on your creative journey. Because I want this podcast to be actionable, I've made a worksheet for you to download. The questions will help you detect your creative barriers and maybe creative blocks that you're experiencing, and the exercises will help you release a new flow of creativity. To access this worksheet, go to my website www.soniasmallhere.com/002. I think it's time to take ourselves seriously as creatives, moving forward to nurture our heart and give it the time and attention it needs. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao for now.